Hello there and welcome back to The Closet Historian and back to my series Side Hustlin', where I talk about myself. But it is my YouTube channel, so I guess it's allowed. I can vlog, right? Kind of, sort of. And I do tend to talk a little bit more about the behind the scenes of both running my YouTube channel and building sets and things like that. A little bit more behind the curtain here on Side Hustlin'. And in my last video earlier in the week, I went over my 2022 in review, kind of went over what went well, where I had areas of opportunity, as it were, and sort of the things I was able to achieve in the year of 2022. And today I'll be going over my goals for this next year for 2023. And this time, all of my notes fit on one sticky. And the first thing on my list as a goal for 2023 is to sew less than 50 garments next year. That's why I'm setting a number goal of things to sew under that. A lot of people have a goal, like they want to sew 12 garments. I want to sew under 50 garments because I got carried away. And I tend to get carried away. I love making things. It's my art form, as previously discussed. It's the way I express myself is making and wearing and styling and playing with clothing. I'm a fashion designer in some ways. You've allowed me that, so thank you. But I need to sew less than 50 garments next year, especially because I'm going to be on the busy side, which we'll get into. So I have like a 3 project a month, like 3 garments a month goal, two projects for here on the channel, and then 1 project over on Patreon, because I do an additional sewing / pattern drafting project over on Patreon every month. So that one will always be there. So that's at least 12 projects, but just 2 a month here on the channel is what I'm going to try and shoot for. And then if I end up making another project, like 4 projects in a month, hopefully it's like a hobby project, an off-camera project. I do enjoy sewing off camera as well, because I don't have to worry about, angling my body when I'm doing something as best for camera or moving the camera around and stuff like that. I do sew faster when I'm not sewing for camera. Although I still sew pretty fast even on camera, but I digress. So hopefully 3 projects, like guaranteed, and then maybe a spare project, but trying to keep these things under control. And now, speaking of having a lot of things around, I have a lot of stuff. I have some clothes that I've made, but a lot of things that are just like vintage that either I have grown out of, either because my style has shifted a little bit or because they just don't fit me the same way that I want to anymore. I have a lot of vintage that people have like just given me. If you're a vintage person, like in your community, a lot of times people will be like, oh, my great aunt's stuff here. And it's not always stuff that you would wear or like, but you end up with a lot of random vintage sometimes. So I have some random vintage. I have things I found out thrifting. I have things that I'm just going to go ahead and let go from my collection as I kind of curate down and get a little bit more specific about my own style. So I have a lot of stuff that, once again, I need to have a big sale. Although this time I don't think I'll be doing it on Etsy, just because Etsy has changed a lot of their policies and fees again, and I don't really want to deal with it, so I'm not exactly sure what platform to have this sale on. If you have had a really good experience with like a way to sell your things online, let me know what platform you used or which one you think I should use below. I'm such an Etsy devotee just because I know how to use it, but I know that it's probably not the best for the buyer or seller at this point anymore, because Etsy has grown too big for their britches, honestly, and they're got some weird stuff going on over there, and I'd rather just find a different way to do this. But I really do need to have a clear out and really curate my existence down to something a little bit more manageable before I try and, shove it all in a truck maybe this next year. Because my biggest goal of the year, which is why I only have a few and they fit on a sticky note, is to buy a house and to move. So it's a combo goal, because of course buying a house is many tasks within itself, as is moving. So these are huge. Like, this is a huge project for this next year for me, but I've been saving for a while now. I still have a little bit more to save, and then I will be looking at houses in late spring and summer. I'm hoping, the perfect spooky Victorian. One of these is just waiting out there for me. I also like these, colonials. I like a good colonial too. I'm not opposed to a nice colonial. And I even like these, which are sort of 1920s and 30s Tudor revivals. If I found a perfect one of those, I wouldn't be mad either. So we'll see if there are any of these around that fit my other kind of like parameters for size and a safer-ish location. I don't want to be in a big city necessarily. I'd rather be like in a smaller town, like 20, 30 minutes outside of town, where I don't have to feel like as intimidated living on my own. Because as we know, I will be living by my lonesome, although there will be cats there. Whether I get to kidnap these cats or we'll get different cats, in any case, there will be cats. It's guaranteed. But yes, again, like I said in my last video, I'm not super fixated on where I'm going to move to. I'm thinking the Northeast. Some people suggested Vermont. And as a person who loves fall and any winter up there is going to be kind of harsh, so might as well. I am looking into it. I've heard a lot about the property taxes in certain states being a lot higher, and I found a house right now that I really like in Ohio, which there's not a ton going on in Ohio, surely. You can't drive to Mood Fabrics, which is, one point in the northeast around New York bucket is being able to like take the train into New York and actually just buy fabric in the fabric district myself, which would be amazing. Ohio, less so. But the property taxes there are a lot lower, I noticed. So, whoever has the best turrety, nice woodwork inside, original tiles, stained glass, kind of a place, good bones, newer roof, nothing makes me happier in a house listing on Zillow, which this makes me sound so old, than like when it says like new roof installed in 2018, guaranteed for 40 years. And I'm like, that's the one. And I do have a lot of people who leave me messages saying, are you sure you want a fixer-upper? Like, that's a lot of work to do on your own, blah, blah, blah. Look, I'm not looking for a fixer-upper where I have to like tear down walls and do drywall myself. First of all, if I find something where it needs a big project, like the entire floors, all of them need to be redone or refinished, or this entire bathroom just needs to be stripped back and redone, I will save up and I will have contractors do that kind of thing. I'm not going to try and re-roof the thing myself. But when it comes to like wallpaper, painting, sanding, any sort of DIY kind of a thing, I'm not afraid to do any of that. I'm not too afraid to jump into some bigger sort of projects, but I'm looking for a house that has good bones. I've had people in my life, people who know me, think like, oh, but it's still going to have knob and tube, or like there'll be no electrics in an old house like that. And I'm like, people have been living in them for the last 100 years, so it's not like they haven't been updated since 1880. They've got a lot of these places are very livable, and already a lot of the work for updating them has been done on the inside. My biggest problem actually is finding a house where too many updates haven't been done, because a lot of times they're very cute Victorians on the outside, and then you go inside and it's entirely opened floor plan and everything is grayish, and that's just not my vibe. I want something higgledy-piggledy with old tile and woodwork and stuff like that. So the more crown molding, the better. If it comes with free spooks, hopefully they're friendly spooks. We'll see how it goes. So that's kind of the house situation. Head off a few of the questions there. But yeah, moving is going to be a whole other task within itself. I know there's going to be so much to do when it comes to the house, like getting finances and my adulting in order for that kind of a thing. I've never gotten a mortgage before, so that should be a fun experiment. It's the kind of administrative homework that I really don't enjoy. So this is going to be a lot of work just to buy the house. And then if they will even sell a house to a YouTuber, we'll find out. Luckily, I can have a co-signer if I need one. I'd rather not, just because something in me wants to be as independent as possible. And I will try and actually make videos about this process. I know not everyone's going to be interested, but this is going to be my side hustle this year, is finding a house and buying one and moving. So in some ways that will end up here in a series later down the road, hopefully, if everything works out according to the nebulous plan. And then of course there's going to be the downsizing, the packing of my entire... I'm a maximalist, so everything at least will finally get dusted. For all of you who asked me that question, I don't tend to dust much, but everything will finally get dusted before it gets packed and then put out in the new place. But then it should be quite the task to get myself from one place to another as well. So hopefully that will end up in a vlog and you can watch me tear my hair out then. And of course, if and when I do find myself in a new home, I will be decorating that into a Gothic jewel box as best as possibly I can on a budget. Obviously I have a lot of stuff I can space out, and finally, instead of having it all cluttered in one spot, I can space it throughout an entire house. So I have a few things already ready to put into a house, but I've been waiting to decorate what feels like for I don't know, the first half of my life. So I'm very ready to get wallpapering, and the only problem will be deciding which bright, delicious, dark jewel tones to use in each room. So when I do start decorating, it will be stuff that I will film. It's not going to replace sewing. It'll just be in addition to, but I've been waiting a long time to decorate and I can't wait to do it. So very much looking forward to it. It's what I'm most excited about. I'm excited to move out of my family home and maybe have parties and dates. But more importantly, I'm excited to decorate. And something I want to do once I figure out my new house, or a new place, figure out the sewing room, figure out my closet room, because we're not looking for a house with big closets. We're looking for a spare bedroom to make into a closet. Don't be silly. Is I want to figure out live streaming, and not for gaming or anything like that, although Maybe, who knows? I'll throw those up on my second channel. But I want to figure out how to do live streaming for pattern drafting. So like above the table, I could do a live stream where you request styles or request how certain things are done. And then I could show you how to do it in real time live. I think that would be really fun. I would like to do live streaming of like some of my beading projects or embellishment in the future, or just hanging out, even like styling the lookbooks. A lot of times when I'm pulling clothes and figuring out what I want to like put together, I think that styling, I have a really good time doing it. And I think it would be fun to like walk you through it, but without having to like edit like a very long video. I think it would be a good thing to do in a sort of live stream kind of format. So I would really like to experiment with live streaming in the future. So once I'm in my new house, I would like to get some kind of a setup going, figure out like what a stream deck even is and how to do live streaming. So that's a goal I have for later in the year, next year, once I am in my new place. We'll see if it gets done here in this next year. It might be something that has to wait till 2024, depending on how the house buying and moving situation goes. And then of course, as always, my biggest goal for next year, other than buying a house, I would say probably buying a house is my biggest goal, but this is my most, like the goal I'm most attached to, which is to finish the third book in the series that I've been working on for forever. This was my biggest goal last year. Didn't really quite get done here in this last year. It's been my biggest goal for a while to finish this book, but it has, you know, the third book in a series, like the final of a trilogy, it takes more to weave all those ends together and like get everyone where they're going. And for me, it's like there's character arcs that have to completely like come to their fruition and stuff like that. And like seeds that were sown in earlier books need to like all weave together. So it is kind of a lot to wrap up together. And so I have had, you know, trouble unwinding the plot a little bit more for this one than I normally do. Sometimes I sticky note them out and like have a sticky notes for chapters and figure them out that way, but it has been something that I had to work through, and that does take more time, so that's fine. And you know, at this point, there was for a long time, I thought the only way I could ever be financially independent is if a miracle happened to me, which is true in some ways, but like if I like wrote a book and then it did really well, and then finally I could move out, which would have been a miracle because most books don't do really well. I'll link a video from Lena Norms about this below, about how authors exactly aren't getting a huge payday. But there was definitely a time where I thought the only way I could achieve the kind of success that would lead to financial independence was for like a once in a lifetime thing to happen to me. But it turns out everyone, all of you are really nice, and you've just decided to give me a job, which is very kind of you. So thank you, all of you who watch these videos, and to my patrons for making it so that I have a salary even as a creative like already, so I don't have to wait to be a published author to have my own home and things like that. So you're giving me a livelihood already, and so I don't have to think about my writing in the same way, which is a certain level of freedom and means I can kind of chill out. And you'll notice like the last couple of years in Side Hustle, in the very first few Side Hustle videos, I talk a lot about trying to get traditionally published, and it's not something that's really weighing on me the same way as it was before, because I don't need a job in the same way I did then. I didn't have a job. Everything was a side hustle, and none of them were really taking off. And now I have this stability here on YouTube, thanks to all of you watching these videos and Patreon. That means I don't have to freak out as much about getting traditionally published as soon as possible because I need a job. Now I have a job, and so I can really let writing be on the side and can take my time with it and focus on doing it in a way that I enjoy instead of in a way that feels like work, if that makes any sense. And I did take a little bit of time to write. I took about 5 days in a block to go through the entire draft of this third book that I have so far. It's about 75,000 words at this moment. I guess around 70, because the last chapter I have had written for a while. I've had the very last like epilogue kind of chapter written for a very long time. So, and like bits and pieces of it I've had sitting in my notes folder for a while. It's coming together. It's just coming together slower than I would have liked, but I have to kind of accept that, and you have made it easier for me to kind of accept that in some ways. But yes, with all of the moving stuff going on next year, I don't know if I'll be able to finish this third book. I am trying to take the pressure off of myself for doing that, because I do want writing to remain something I enjoy, even though it is something I do eventually want to be like the main header underneath my name, like Bianca Esposito, author, comma, YouTuber, you know? And right now it is, I don't know, YouTuber. I guess it's what my job title is. When people ask what I do, I say I teach sewing online, because that sounds, for some reason, more understandable than YouTuber, because YouTuber, that can mean anything, you know? But I, for the most part, demonstrate sewing online. I think that's kind of what I do, but I'm kind of a fashion designer. I'm kind of a sewing teacher. I'm kind of a vlogger. It's a little bit of everything, but eventually I just want to add writer to that list. And again, like last time, it's not like I have my thoughts, my ducks all in a row for exactly what I want for this next year. The biggest thing is going to be buying a house and moving. So I just know that's going to take over my life come summer. And luckily before that, I do have a trip planned. So I forgot. Other notes, going to London in spring. So in spring here in a couple months, I'll be going on a 2-week trip to London. I was talking to someone on Instagram and they had asked where I studied abroad in London. And I wanted to look up the address of where exactly it was because I know it was on Marylebone High Street, but I wanted to see exactly where. And then as soon as I zoomed down on Google Earth, I was like, man, I haven't walked this street since 2012. And I realized it had been 10 years since I'd been to London, and it is my favorite city. I absolutely love London. I mean, I haven't been to many places, but I love London. I love the museums there. I love how much inspiration you can absorb in just one, wander around. A lot of the museums are free, so you can just walk in and see quite amazing things, like on your way home from school, like I used to do. Sometimes I would just pop into the National Gallery on my way. I take, a different tube station home because I was on the Piccadilly line when I was living there, and just like pop into a museum or like walk past amazing architecture instead of going straight home because it was possible. There's nothing quite like being stuck down in Central. Like why go back up to Islington when you can just stay in Central London and wander around until your wedge heels give you blisters like I often did. And I am excited to film a little bit while I'm there. I think I'll be taking a little bit less filmtastic approach than my last trip. When I went on that road trip, I did film every day. I think I'll be filming specific things and specific days, but not necessarily every day like that. I want to take my time and actually really enjoy being there. I'll be staying actually quite near Covent Garden, so there'll be plenty to walk around and explore and see. I can walk down to the Thames, walk around. I love walking around London. There's always so much to see there. When a man is tired of London, he is tired of life. And I do think there's plenty to do there. And I'm excited to share some of my love of that city with all of you soon. So I do have that trip coming up. So it's not exactly a goal. It's just an actual plan because I just got this idea in my head one day that I hadn't been there in 10 years. And I ended up on British Airways website before I knew it. These things just happen. And I do need to get boosted again before I go, which I've had some people, again, anti-vax people end up in my comments. And you're not going to convince me that science isn't real, but thank you for stopping by. So that's another goal, but that's much more immediate. I need to schedule that for like next month. But again, appointments and homework, not my favorite thing ever. And then again, my last silly goal is to finish this sleeve that I've kind of been creating here. And I'm excited to do that. And I might actually finally expand and get a tattoo somewhere else, not on one of my arms, which will be the first for me. But I'm excited about that. Again, I love tattoos. I've had several people in the comments telling me that they don't like them, even though I asked you not to. Come on, it's not that hard to follow instructions now, is it? My body, my choice. I choose artwork. Not sorry. If you haven't noticed that I'm a maximalist and like to decorate myself, my space, my clothes, like everything as much as possible, then you haven't really been paying attention. And rant over. Thank you again for listening, for sticking with me, for your support, for watching these videos again and giving me my dream job, making these kind of goals a reality for me. I never thought I would get here. I spent so long dreaming of being in this place that I almost don't know how to recognize that this is actually possible now. And if and when this happens this year, I am going to be slightly disbelieving it until I drive up and get my keys. It's such a dream come true for me that it feels like I'm planning it for someone else. And in some ways, because I'm putting it off till spring, I don't have to think about it yet. And I know I've had a little bit of a slower start here this year on the channel, but I do have a lot of things in the works in the background. There's a big pile of fabric waiting to become clothes, and there are some textile experimentation, science experiments going on as we speak here, melting in the sewing room next to me. So I'll be showing you a lot of fun stuff here on the channel soon, and I hope you will enjoy a lot of the projects I have coming up. So I'll be back soon with more sewing, vintage fashion, costuming, and crafting. So I'll see you then. Bye. And an extra huge thank you to my conservator level patrons, Alicia, Amy, Anna, Audra, Che, Karina, Denise, Ellen, Eloquent Silence, Fern, Lilith, Linda, Lynn Hamilton and Lynn Olson, Margaret, Nancy, Natalie, Rachamus, Rhonda, Sean, Swingularity, Thea, Tracy, Ula, Zara and Zuzana, thank you for making my dream job a reality, and my actual dreams are starting to come true, and it's all down to you. So thank you so much to all of my conservators and to all of my patrons and to all of my viewers like you.